working on like multi-billion dollar contracts, which was very stressful to have that accountability.
Welcome back to Life from Within. I'm your host, Kelly Dwyer. Today's guest is Kate Tansey Chevlen. Kate has spent 17 years of her career inside of one global biotech company. She's been in a range of leadership roles that have grown in scale and impact. Today, we talk about the stretch role that changed everything and why it nearly broke her at first. She shares her process of decoding what felt like a foreign language to become a fluent decision maker, and the moment she stopped performing someone else's leadership style and started leading as herself instead. Finally, she shares a brilliant reminder for us all. Stay anchored in who you truly are as you grow into what's next. Let's dive in. Our guest today is Kate Tansey Chevlen. Kate's been with Amgen, a global biotechnology company, for more than 17 years. She's taken on a dozen different roles across marketing, sales, market access. She's led through change, launched products, and built teams known for trust and collaboration. She's currently a vice president at the company. Before biotech, she worked in state and local government on healthcare and economic policy. And outside of work, she loves to travel, read, and raise her two boys to be good humans. Welcome, Kate.
Thank you, Kelly. So good to be here.
Happy to have you today. Okay, you love to read. I love to read. Is there a book that has captured your attention lately that you want to share?
Yes, there are so many, but I recently read Buckeye. It's a recent release, and I keep thinking about it. It's about basically two different couples and how their lives have intertwined. I just loved it. It shows the complexity of humans and how we're flawed, but completely beautiful at the same time. And I loved that book.
I'm adding it to my list. Okay, so you have had 17 years, over 17 years in one company.
Yeah,
We don't see that often anymore. And
it's rare.
you've gotten to move from role to role, which is probably why you were able to stay that long, because it kept your interest. And so you've had this rich journey, this rich leadership journey inside one company.
Yeah.
Where do you want to start your story today?
I would love to actually go back to 2017 when I got a promotion to go from leading a portion of a team to a full franchise. So I was originally the marketing director for a handful of brands, loved the job. I got really good at marketing and leading teams and launching brands. And then I had the opportunity to go much bigger and to lead all of the brands in the franchise and to go beyond just marketing into much broader things like contracting and pricing and negotiating big contracts with customers and engaging with the sales team in an even deeper way. So it was a really big stretch for me as a leader and a human to go into that bigger role.
Now, wait, you use the word franchise. What does that mean exactly?
Yeah, I'll unpack it. So at Amgen, we usually cluster brands together that are kind of similar in the types of patients that they treat. And so in this case, it was a franchise of similar products. So there were 5 different products within a therapeutic area, and I oversaw all of them. And franchise leadership also at Amgen usually means you're doing more things than just marketing, like I alluded to. So you're basically running all commercial aspects of these brands, and you're the steward of all aspects of that commercially.
I love that. What a nice dynamic role.
Oh yeah, it
Yeah.
was by far one of the best roles that I had, and it pushed me in ways that I don't think I anticipated when I said yes to this role. And when I look back, I think this role defined me more as a leader than any other role I had, just because it pushed me out of my comfort zone so much and so fast on so many different dimensions.
So it pushed you out of your comfort zone on so many levels and so fast.
So I had gone from being, as I said, a marketing leader, where I would basically oversaw marketing teams and created all of the marketing collateral for physicians and all those and patients and those sorts of things. So doing that plus contracting, really intense, in-depth contracting, where we were contracting with really large customers and working on like multi-billion dollar contracts, which was very stressful to have that accountability. Pricing and discounting and figuring out what's the right discount to offer different segments of customers and understanding like all the underlying economics of that. And then also being responsible for driving forecasts for this giant multi-billion dollar business, basically, and being held accountable to that at Amgen. So I guess if I could boil it down, it was like the quantitative business side of things that was a real new thing for me and that I had never been accountable for. I had seen it happen, like sitting on the sidelines, but I had never been the one to say, okay, you're the one who has to make these decisions and drive that business. So that was probably the biggest area of discomfort for me.
Sounds like a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
So how did you come up the learning curve?
First, it was more just sitting in discomfort for a while. So I remember the first day on the job, I got an Outlook invite saying contracting meeting. I had no idea what the heck I was walking into. So I walk in, and there's about 20 people sitting around the table, many of whom I had seen kind of on the periphery, and I knew who they were, but I didn't know what their jobs totally were. And I sat down at the head of the table. They had saved this like head of the table spot for me. And
Nice, you made it to the head of the
right,
table.
but I thought I was just going to listen to the conversation. And I sit down, and they're like, "So, Kate, we have these 10 decisions today. We want to know what you want to do." And I was like, oh my gosh. I mean, I didn't say that out loud, but I was like, that sounds
Right.
great. Let's work through these. So we worked
Yeah.
through them, and I just spent a lot of time digesting and trying to understand. And I punted some of the decisions because in that moment, I realized I cannot be accountable for these decisions if I don't understand like the sausage making behind it. So immediately after that meeting, I went to two different experts in that room who I really trusted. I mean, they had been in these roles for 30 years. They were mostly pricing gurus, and they knew like every dynamic of pricing and the impact on that in the biotech space, which is even more complex in a way because there's government reporting and all sorts of really important nuances that you have to get right.
Yeah.
And so I basically just called them and I said, I need a crash course in this and I need it like tomorrow. And so I basically went back to school. I mean, I know you and I both went to the same business school. So it was like sitting in business school, getting a crash course in a really technical course that maybe like I had never understood before. And I met with these two experts daily for hours a day. And we whiteboarded. I was like, okay, so if I choose this discount rate, what does this do to the economics? And I got really deep with them and did that for about 3 or 4 weeks of these kind of like deep dive sessions to the point that I really felt like I knew enough to be dangerous. So that, that was important because then when we had our next meeting, we would meet monthly for these contracting decisions. I knew at least who in the room do I go to that I trust and that I now understand their language. And then I learned who can I go to right after that meeting to compare my thinking. So that when I made the decision, I had a trusted thought partner and I wasn't alone in this, but I was smart enough to track in the moment on what they were talking about, which on day one sounded like a foreign language. And then by my second contracting meeting a month in, I was like, okay, I get this. But that took months, honestly, to like really get good at it to the point where probably 6 months later, I was like, okay, I'm fluent in this. But it was about being uncomfortable, asking people the right questions, trusting people, but holding myself accountable to learn really fast. Because if I said yes to something that wasn't right, that would have been really dangerous. It was a huge, huge technical learning experience for me.
It sure sounds like it. So you had these two trusted partners around help me learn the economics,
Yeah.
the fundamentals and all the subtleties. And then you said after the meetings, there were other people you'd go to compare your thinking. And they had been in the meeting?
Yeah, they were basically the same trusted partners.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I would go back to them. I'd say, okay, this is what I heard you say. I'm tracking with you. Here's what I think we should do. What do you think about that? And we'd kind of compare notes and then would land in a good place. So I basically kept using them as references inside these formal meetings and then in that behind the scenes, to check
Okay.
my logic. Yeah.
So to check your logic. And then in terms of the authority around the decision making, was it a consensus-based decision? Was it you making the decision? Was it a few people making the decision? How would you describe that?
So it was me making the decision, but I liked to drive alignment in the meeting to make sure that the voices were heard. And that's again why I needed this crash course because I was the one deciding. Like they may say, hey, there's 3 options, Kate, which one are we going to go with?
Hmm.
I would use those meetings to get all the thoughts and opinions and disconfirming on the table. And then I would quickly sort through it and figure out, okay, this is what we're doing. But it was almost impossible to do that on day one,
I
as
bet.
you can imagine. It's almost like walking into a room and everyone's speaking like a totally different language you don't know. And they're like, well, what do you want to do? And I can barely say yes in the language, you know?
And kudos to you for not having the hubris to think, I'm going to make the decision because I'm supposed to make the decision and I'm going to act like I know, even though I don't. There are a lot of people that do that.
It's true. I'm sure that people do that, but I couldn't do that because I respected this business too much. I mean, I grew up in this business in a lot of ways. Like I knew the impact this had on the company. I knew the impact this had on patients. My nephew was one of the patients, actually. So I felt such personal accountability to get this right. And I didn't want to screw that up.
I'm so glad. There's a client that I have been working with recently who is general counsel for a construction company, like a global, huge
Mm,
global construction company. And
hmm.
it's interesting because he sort of shared some of the decisions that were made in the contracting. If the decisions aren't done well, then there's
Yeah.
litigation on the back end, which is very expensive and has a lot of impacts. Let's move on to some of the other challenges you had with the role. We talked about the technical challenge. What would you say was a close second?
A very close second was the leadership dynamic. So I had gone from being either the direct leader for a lot of the people on the team or even a peer in some cases, more just I was like their direct kind of line manager, to being like the boss's boss. And beyond that, I took over from a man who was one of my greatest mentors and friends, who was just beloved by this team. I mean, like people close to worshiped him. Like, I mean, he just could do no wrong because he was such an inclusive and caring and kind and smart leader. When I came in, I felt, I don't know if it was true, but I felt that like I had to be him. I owed it to the team to be this guy who was so loved. And it created some tension, probably more of like with myself than anyone, but also there was just this dynamic of shifting who I showed up as a leader and also who they were used to me being as a leader on the team. And there were probably 3 months of just very awkward times, if I'm being very honest with myself, with some members of the team where we were just adjusting to each other.
You felt like you needed to show up in the way that he showed up. What were you trying to do to be like him?
So he and I are very different leaders. And actually, that's why we work really well together. He is very boisterous, like just big personality and like very caring at the same time. So I tried to, I think, amp up my personality. I just came in with more of an edge because that's how he is as a leader. And I just felt like the team deserved that, to almost have like a copy and paste of the leader.
What was the impact on you trying to show up
Yeah.
in this way that wasn't maybe so natural to you?
Oh my gosh, it was so draining because every day I would try to go in and give the team what I thought they wanted, and I would just go home spent. And I think that they were unsatisfied. They were like, you are not him. You are not you. I'm not getting what I need from a leader because you're not being authentic. It was an undercurrent of tension and just awkwardness and a little bit of strife, even if I'm being honest, too. Of like, what are you doing, Kate? Like, who are you? So it was tiring. It was very tiring.
I would imagine it would be. Was there a particular moment or a day when the realization just hit you of what you were actually trying to do and how it wasn't helping you or the team?
Just as you say that, I had this flashback. I was in a city. I actually don't remember where, because I had traveled for customer meetings, and I remember a woman on my team who I had especially had a little bit of tension with, where I felt like she wanted me to be this former leader. I was trying to be, and I remember she called me to ask for advice on a marketing deliverable she had. And in that moment, I think I was just so tired. I don't know if it's because I was traveling so much and I was meeting with customers and my mind was just drained, but I just went back into Kate mode. I was like, I'm just going to be myself because I'm just too tired. And I gave her advice how I would give advice. I felt myself like settling kind of into myself in a good way. And I remember that conversation felt so good. And she was like, "Thank you. Like this is the advice I needed. Thank you. I can now move on." And it just felt natural
Mhm,
finally and not
mhm,
forced.
mhm.
And I remember hanging up the phone and just standing on this sidewalk and being like, what the heck have I been doing? Like, why
Mm.
haven't I been myself? And in that moment, I just made a commitment to myself to go back to the office and go back home and just be me. I suddenly just had this epiphany and felt kind of silly all at the same time. I was like, why was I doing that for so long? And then we started to gel as a team, and I started to feel grounded as a leader after that moment.
I love that. More specifically, what did you start doing? What did you stop doing? What did you do more
Yeah.
of?
So right away, I embodied my own personality at work. So I stopped trying to be a little bit bigger and more kind of in charge and, like, for lack of a better word, like male, male
Mhm.
strong energy.
Mhm.
And I just came in as myself, which you can probably gather even in this conversation. I'm much more calm, very others focused. I like to track a lot with people and what they're feeling and experiencing. I tapped more into that side of myself and fully showed up as myself, which was so just liberating, first of all. And then even in meetings, I really love listening. And so I allowed others to speak more, and I drew them out more, and I asked what they thought because I didn't feel like I had to show up and just declare myself. And that actually made me better too. From everything from those technical meetings we talked about to just team meetings, that's my natural style. And that worked really well to just let people speak and for me to synthesize and to have like a culture of listening and understanding. Totally shifted the team dynamic in a good way.
Was there any specific feedback or comments from team members acknowledging the before and after?
There were one or two who I was really close with, and they're like, basically without saying these words, they're like, we're glad you're here now." Like, you know, welcome. I mean, I think I'm sure that there was chatter behind the scenes of like, she hasn't found her way yet, and the couple just seemed kind of relieved. It's time for you to show up how you are. So thanks.
What a win. What a win.
Yeah.
And acknowledging that you actually got the role by being authentic to yourself, right?
Yes, yes. And actually, that was such a learning for me because in future roles after that, even to this day, I show up how I am. And my view is if this is what you want, this is what you get. And if you don't want this, it's fine. Because I'm way more at peace when I can be how I am. I think my teams function really well when I can lead authentically and they can be themselves. So it was an amazing learning
Useful for the rest of your life.
because no one wants to go around pretending to be someone they're not. It is just, it's tiring and it's not effective.
I love this. No one wants to go around being someone who they're not because it's tiring and it's not effective. You had about a 6-month period of coming up to speed around the technical aspect of things
Mhm.
and experimenting with a different way of being that you realized wasn't authentic to you and didn't feel good and was draining before you finally came back to you and felt grounded and stepped into your authentic leadership in this new role. What practices did you use to help you stay grounded or get through that period of time? Was it just white knuckling it the whole time?
So I think I white knuckled it for a lot of it, if I'm being honest. I am nothing if not determined. Like I was determined to just be this former leader. And so day in and day out, this is what I was going to do. You can't do that every single moment. And so I relied on my husband a lot at home. He is fabulous. I would talk to him about this and be like, wow, that was an exhausting day. And just kind of like unpack with him, like, what I was going through. I talked to a couple really good friends too during that time. I remember my sister too, who's one of my best friends. We would talk about this. And I ran a lot.
Okay.
For me, exercise is a really good form of meditation and just like releasing the stress. So I more did it just to like shed the stress
Mhm.
because I don't think I had cognitively realized that what I was doing was harmful to
Mhm.
myself and my team. So I just more tried to like get rid of stress by talking and then running. At the time, too, I was a mom of two pretty young boys. And so I also didn't have a lot of time at home to like meditate and process. Like I was just trying to mother and then get to work and be a leader and then rinse and repeat. So I just had these little moments in between to more just like get rid of stress, I guess.
If there was a younger leader that came to you and she was going through or he was going through the same situation, what would your advice be?
I would ask them, In what situations do you feel like you can be your most effective self? And when do you feel like you are being authentic? Like, tell me what that feels like for you. And I would ask them, basically, who are you at your core? And then I would ask them, how do you replicate that rather than trying to be someone else you're trying to replicate? I wish
Yeah.
someone had told me that and just sat me down and was like, who are you really? And how does that person show up?
Now, did you have a coach at the time?
No, I did not. I didn't have a coach till much later, and man, that would have been great.
Right?
But I also was surrounded by other leaders who were about in the same stage as I was. I think we were all kind of finding our voice too. And so I didn't really have many other leaders who I could go to at the time who were wiser and had been through this, or at least maybe I didn't feel okay asking those leaders, but I didn't have any of them come to me and say, I see what you're doing here. Like, let's knock this off, Because I was probably doing an okay job. I wish someone had just come to me and said, like, really, stop trying so hard.
Yeah, a little mentorship. Not so much
Yeah,
coaching, but mentorship.
mentorship, or even like
Mhm.
just tell me the tough stuff I need to hear to get me
Yeah,
out of my head.
yeah. And then what you said before, I love. If we could have a little angel tap us on the shoulder every time we're out of alignment with our sort of
Yeah,
authentic self and
yeah,
remind us what you described, the advice you would give to someone else is, who are you really
yeah,
when you're showing up as your most authentic? Describe
yeah,
that. And then how do you do more of that in this current situation?
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I naturally shifted there over 6 months.
Hmm.
But it would have been so powerful if I had a coach or someone to sit with me early on and tap into that and recognize that. Like, do that deep discovery work. Because when you're in this mode, and if you're parenting or doing whatever it is outside of work, it is not easy just to like carve out time and journal and, like think deep thoughts. Like I was just trying to survive.
Right, right. White knuckling is really an apt phrase for
Oh yeah.
periods of
I mean,
time like
I'm
that.
sure that I like slept like this, like with my knuckles clenched. I mean, I remember getting like a mouth guard at night too during that time because I'm sure I was like clenching my jaw. Like I was literally white knuckling everything.
Yeah, and you
Yes.
wake up and you're like, "Oh,
Yeah. It like
I kinda have a
hurts.
headache and it's a
Yeah.
little
And I don't know
sore."
why. It's
Yeah.
because you're not being authentic. Yeah.
Ah. This has been lovely so far, and I feel like we really dove in. Is there something that you haven't said about that period of time, what you've learned about yourself or learned about leading?
I guess the third part, which is probably less significant, but still really important, is that I could step into broader things and do them. So, beyond even like that contracting example I was telling you, this was the first role where I presented to senior executives on the forecast and I held my own and I got it. Like, I understood it and I liked it. This was the first time I negotiated big contracts with customers and I could do it. I think that was just an important, almost like confidence booster for me that you can jump into hard things and figure it out. And if you can't right away, you phone a friend, right? But there's also some things you didn't think could come naturally, and that I realized, oh, I can do this. So that set me up also for future roles when people would tap me on the shoulder and say, would you go run this team? And I had never done that before. It got me to yes much faster because I had put myself in these situations where I was like jumping into the deep end and I found I could swim. I'm like, I could do this. It was a really, really good role for that, just to make me appreciate my own capabilities and that I could figure something out if it wasn't something I knew right away.
Lots of confidence growth is what it sounds like.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And even if I wasn't the best at it, I knew that I could hold my own and I could figure it out. And some things I was actually really good at, and that was really nice. Like that was something I needed in my career to realize, okay, like there are some things I shine in that I didn't realize.
How are you applying that greater confidence now, or how do you want
Mhm.
to apply it in your career or in your life going forward?
I apply it in my role now and my prior role before this by jumping into the deep end and realizing I'm going to figure it out. So, one example, I led the patient access team at Amgen, and I had never been an expert in that field. But I went in without much worry because I knew that I had such a good team. And so I just immediately kind of replicated that approach of like, okay, who are my experts? How can I get quick downloads from them? When do I trust versus when do I go deep to verify? That felt very seamless in that job, for example, because I had already practiced that. Today in my job, I do that all the time. There are moments where I'm not the expert. If it's like a really deep clinical development work, for example, I'm not the expert, but I know how to ask really good questions and I know who the best experts are. And so that's another example. I can go forward with a lot of confidence and make sure that I get the information I need to digest it and to make the right decision. So it's night and day what I was before versus now, where I don't stay up at night worrying about this stuff versus before where I was like clenching my jaw all night and, nervous. And I think that's because I just learned how to tap into experts, know when I need to go deep, and then let go when I trust. It's been really a nice shift in leadership.
You have your own playbook, it sounds like. Now you have a playbook
I
that you
kind
can
of
apply.
do. Like,
Mhm.
I wouldn't say it's the same in every role, but I think
Mhm.
I've more learned like what to tap into with my own leadership. And when I start to get nervous or uncertain, like how do I work through that? So, yeah, maybe it's more like a leadership playbook than
Mhm.
anything.
You mentioned knowing when to let go, and
Yeah.
so there's this trust but verify, this I need to learn it deeply in order to be able to trust myself to make the decision. There's trust but verify. I generally trust you, but I'm just going to ask a few verification questions to make sure I'm aligned with you. And then there's the, okay, I'm going to delegate this to you fully. I fully trust you. I'm going to trust the decision that you want to make. And you said you learned how to let go. And I'm assuming that applies to that third category of full delegation. What was that learning curve like for you?
No, I actually think I learned that in this role I was talking about too from 2017 because I was used to being a doer and being in the weeds with my team. And I had to learn very quickly that there is no time for all of that. So I think mostly when I knew that I had a leader below me who was a true expert in that area, like let's say marketing, and it was also my area of expertise, I could very quickly delegate because I knew we were on the same page. Often I had trained those people too. So I was like, okay, like we are lockstep. And in those cases, I would say run. And I still do today. If I've got another expert on my team and we see eye to eye on things I trust, I will sometimes peek and make sure, because that's how I keep things in check. And if it still looks good, I keep trusting. If it's off the rails, then I'll rein it in and say, no, we need to have more check ins. That's typically how I delegate. And I would rather empower, honestly. I think people do far better when they have a leader who empowers them. So I think I default to that mostly by hiring really good people who I fully trust. And then I focus on the big things that other people can't do in their role, or that have super high impact. And if that decision's off, it'll matter. It boils down to just getting a really good team around you and either hiring them or training them in a way or coaching and developing in a way where like the trust is there that they can do good work.
For that team, did you have to do more training, coaching, hiring, a combination?
It was more me letting go, honestly, because it was a really good team. And so for me, it was more delegation and trusting than anything. And it worked. I mean, it was a rock star team. And so I would check in on a few things. If anything, I had to teach them to stop coming to me for everything. And after a while, I was like, nope, you got this.
That's great. There was a little bit of training that you had to do around helping them feel that it's safe enough for them to make the decision. So
Yeah.
you're talking about psychological safety there, which is great. So people
Yeah.
often equate psychological safety and trust, but as I understand psychological safety to be, it's the safety to know that you could fail and that it won't be catastrophic for you personally in your career, right?
Yes.
In that
Right.
team. And when I said catastrophic, you had mentioned this. There are certain decisions that have such great impact that you're going to hold those, right? You're not going to
Yes.
delegate those.
Exactly.
You were creating psychological safety on the team.
It's a good way to put it because actually, at the time, we didn't even use those words.
Okay.
Now that I think about it, it's much more recent. But yes, it really was that. And I was clear with my team too that I trust you. You're an expert. You go do this. If it ends up falling flat, we will fix it, and I have your back. 9 out of 10 times or even greater, it worked really well. Like, meaning their execution was great and flawless. And so I
Hmm.
had the right to trust them. But I think that made for a better team because it did feel psychologically safe.
What a growth journey you just described. Thank you for
Yes.
sharing that.
Yeah.
Okay, so as we come to the close of our discussion, is there anything you haven't said yet that you want people to know about you, about leadership, about growth?
I think it goes back to maybe the theme of our whole discussion, which is take time early to figure out who you are and don't apologize for that to yourself. It's okay to emulate people and like see who you want to be, but still morph that into who you are. And don't try to be like a puppet. Better for people around you. It's better for yourself. You're going to let go of a lot of tension and turmoil and probably be way more effective. That's been kind of my mantra over time is be the best you and no one else.
I love that. I'm taking that with me. Kate, thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Kelly.
Where can people find you?
Well, they can find me on LinkedIn.
You can find Kate Tansey Chevlen, but it's
Yes.
spelled CH, starts with a CH.
Yes.
And you can find Kate on LinkedIn, and I'll add the link to the show notes. Kate, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Hi, Kelly here. If you liked this episode, please share it with someone who could benefit from it. You know, this is episode number 9, which means that we have officially made it further in podcasting than half of all shows launched. Woohoo! The biggest piece of advice the experts share is to know your audience. On that note, I'd love to hear from you. I would love it if you would rate the show, of course. 5 stars. What would make a real difference, though, is if you leave a review sharing what you like about the show and what you want to see in future episodes. I do want to hear from you. Thanks for tuning in. Your time is precious, and I feel a lot of gratitude that you're choosing to share some of it with me. Catch you next time on Life from Within.